This is being reborn as Sasuke in Konoha Part 8. Hope you guys like it. Chapter 36, V.1C.36 June in Exam 6. Having won, Sasuke had decided to go back to his team to help them out, and get a hold of the scroll that they would need. This process, or test, was annoying, especially since Sasuke had to face off against Orochimaru under a certain set of circumstances. Specifically where he could maintain that his current level of power and skill is not above the Jonin level. So, of course the use of the Kyuubi's chakra should help him out in defeating Orochimaru. That bastard even tried to give me a bloody mark on my neck. Sasuke thought in annoyance, as Orochimaru had tried his damn hardest to get a hold of his body. No doubt I was actually very nice looking as a vessel for himself, but I don't need him. And if I did need Orochimaru, I can use Kotomatsu Kami to take control of him, gaining access to all that is Orochimaru. His potential skills, abilities and knowledge. Everything. All Sasuke would like from him would be some of Hashirama Senju's cells, knowledge on this world's chakra and science, along with his serpent summoning scroll. That is truly the most beneficial to myself. But knowing the way those snakes are, I would have to use Kotomatsu Kami on them instead. Again, another reason Sasuke didn't immediately use Kotomatsu Kami on Orochimaru due to all of the other possible people or beings he could control during this short period of time. An example being Gaara, as his future as the Kage for the Hidden Sand Village would allow him another way to hold influence over others. Again, Kotomatsu Kami has its limits. This is why I need the second eye to start being able to use it more. Sasuke again thought to himself as Hinata and Sakura took charge in scouting out for some teams that they would need to face off against. Or I could use Kotomatsu Kami on Gaara's prisoner, the Ichibi. Kotomatsu Kami could even be used on tailed beasts, or at least Sasuke assumed that it would be possible to use it against them. Unfortunately the limits of this ability have not been fully tested. Let's stop here for a rest. It is night time now, Hinata said, just so happening to stop at an open area with some level of coverage. Sasuke nodded his head, while Sakura replied, "Okay. We should probably set up some traps just in case. No doubt ninja from other villages and even our own would be looking to take advantage of night time." Hinata nodded her head in reply, while Sasuke stayed silent. Setting up themselves for some rest, obviously they didn't want to travel during the night like some others. Not because it was not easy or anything like that, but rest was always the best option to take when one had access to such a luxury. Without rest, the mind starts to become strained and operations the body makes may be fine, but some side effects will start to mess with one's ability to think. "I will keep a lookout first," Sakura said, as they would all take their own turns making sure to keep their senses alert in case of a troublesome situation. It was now the morning, the sun shining above with Sakura and Hinata still sleeping, where Sasuke is the last one to remain awake, for it was his turn the last few hours of the night. "I sense those sound ninja hiding away. I guess their objective is to still come after me, huh?" I was also a little surprised that Orochimaru had such information about me being a Jinchuriki. When fighting, it seemed like Orochimaru was contemplating whether or not to try and mark Sasuke. And I assume that is because of the 8 trigram seal. After all, sealing techniques and sealing in general is a hard subject to study down the higher the level goes. The technique Orochimaru wanted to use is of a very high standard, where the same could be said about the technique used to contain the Kyuubi within Sasuke. Whatever the case, I have very minimal understanding of curse seals, and I should probably take some time to have a look at Anko's cursed seal. The birds were chirping along happily as if nothing dangerous was happening within the forest of death. Of course, for the most part, birds are kind of safe staying so far up in the sky, high above the carnage below. No doubt a few teams by now had been eliminated, whether this be elimination through death or knockout didn't matter. In the end, they failed. Sakura and Hinata need to start increasing their abilities to sense things. I should see if either of them have the ability to have a chakra sensing technique. Hinata will most likely have some affinity due to her Bakugan, but testing both will fully determine the possibilities. Sasuke knew that the sound ninja would be making their moves any moment now. A squirrel approached with a bomb seal on its back. The same exact trick. "I am not." Sighing, Sasuke got up and created some clones to place a barrier to allow Hinata and Sakura their rest. After all, while Sasuke was taking his time dealing with Orochimaru, These two were actually putting in some effort into finding people. It was only because Sasuke was manipulating their actions that they didn't find anyone to fight with. How silly. I should have just let them do their thing. Sasuke shook his head before moving out of his hiding spot, and quickly scooping up the squirrel, he undid the seal immediately, without the sound ninja even noticing how. You may come out now, Sasuke said, drawing the attention of the sound ninja in hiding. You discovered us. Aren't you impressive? However, we are here to only take you with us. Leave with us now, the guy with the bandaged face said. Are you three going to attack at once or what? I don't have all the time in the world. My teammates are going to wake up soon, and I don't want them have to deal with pests so early in the morning. Sasuke taunted, which made the three sound ninja angry. Why you little? Orochimaru said that we can't kill you, but he said nothing about not being able to beat you up. One of the sound ninja said and rushed out to attack. Of course, Sasuke knew of the trick behind their techniques, where they utilized sound. Let's see here. Sasuke poured some chakra into his ears, molding it so that it may block the pressure exerted by the sound techniques utilized. After all, blocking off his hearing is both as much as a benefit as it is a disadvantage. I don't need my ears right now anyway. Sensing around himself, Sasuke knew that there was no one else around in this area. This was done on purpose, for Sasuke did distract Sakura and Hinata to come this way, out of the way of any other team that may get in the way. Sasuke's Sharingan active, he managed to see the world in a different light, and saw some flow of chakra around the individual manipulating sound. His arm connected to a device that created specialized sounds that would attack the mind was going off, but Sasuke couldn't hear a thing. No, but I can see everything. Sasuke punched forward, his strength releasing a blow that pushed the bandaged man backwards, flying off through the woods and crashing through a tree. My strength has definitely reached a level, Sasuke thought, looking at his fist. However, I still need to gain better access to the techniques practiced by Might Guy and Rock Lee to start thinking of ways to use the entirety of my body. Even with the gravity seal, Sasuke would only compare his current physical strength within the range of a high-level Jonin. I am most definitely not even at Might Guy's level of physical prowess yet. But I can tell that I am definitely above Lee's. You will pay for that. Running forward, the second male in the sound team tried to attack Sasuke, but he was immediately pinned to the ground, his skill not even comparable to his leader. You know that I can kill you, right? Sasuke asked, his voice chilling to the boy's ears as he realizes now that his death is very much a possibility. I think not. The girl in their team tried to stop Sasuke before he could do anything, but Sasuke was so fast that no one's eyes could keep track of his movements. Ugh. The girl was punched in the abdomen, but she was not sent flying. Instead, she slumped on the ground then and there, being completely knocked out. Kin. The boy called to his female companion, before being hoisted into the air by Sasuke, looking straight into his eyes. How unfortunate. Amaterasu. Sasuke used his right eye for this, considering that is where his only eternal Mangekyo is implanted. Ah! The boy screamed, as from the inside out his body started to burn, and burn, and burn. Black flames erupted from his mouth, his expression now frozen and crumbling into ashes consumed by the ever-burning fire of the sun. Looking towards the girl, Sasuke decided to do the exact same thing as he extinguished the flames for the boy. Amaterasu. Sasuke's level of skill in casting spells or techniques had advanced enough that he no longer needed to say the technique's name, even reducing the amount of hand signs needed for other techniques. The girl died much more peacefully, as the flames took her life quickly, without wasting time on any over-the-top flare. However, her mind did respond to the pain, her eyes opening in and mouth opening in a shocked state of mind, before turning off once again, not being able to handle the pain. Now for the last person. Sasuke's eyes shone with a cruel light, searching for his next opponent. While these three were not here to kill him, their intentions were to kill Hinata and Sakura even if they managed to capture him. Sasuke's possessive and protective nature now getting the better of him, he ended their lives as they had intent they shouldn't have. It was only thanks to the Kyuubi's inherent negative emotions sensing technique that allowed Sasuke to see into the nature of their hearts. Moving forward, Sasuke teleports to where the last member of the current sound team was present, trying to get up off of the ground. Why you? Coughing up blood through his bandages, Sasuke looked at him coldly. Please. IIW was only here on a mission. Orochimaru. Sasuke grabbed a hold of this man's head, before lifting him up off of the ground, immediately silencing him. Sasuke had not even stopped the small blockage in his ears, so he was unable to hear the pleas for mercy. The cries or screams made by the two other individuals as he burnt them to a crisp. Mumbling, the man tries to reason with Sasuke, but all his pleas are useless. Fine. If that is how you want it. The leader struggled for a bit, before becoming released from Sasuke. I'll show you. I'll show Orochimaru that I am worth something as well. By destroying you. Supersonic slicing wave. From this banged up and bandaged masked individual, he created an outpouring of wind or air, headed straight towards Sasuke, trying to at least harm him in some way. Sasuke didn't move, awaiting for the technique to hit him. After a clearing was made, even the dirt creating a cone in the ground leading to Sasuke was completely evaporated. Nothing seemed to be left behind, however. Ha! Sasuke pushed the man forward a small bit, which in actuality sent him flying a few meters away again. You shall be coming with me. Sasuke's Sharingan casted a genjutsu on him, forcing him to follow after Sasuke. Coming across the area where Sasuke had burnt the other two, Sasuke continued. You shall die here. Your only mercy being that you have died along with your teammates. In the same exact place. In the same exact manner. Your existence forfeit. Your belonging nowhere. Your death. Sasuke thought, Amaterasu, before continuing. Unescapable. A burst of black flames encapsulated the man within a circle. Wait. The circle started to enclose itself, the man having no way to escape, and as the black flames came closer, they started to attach and track up along him in a methodical manner. The heat starting to melt his clothing and bandages away, his entire form now encased in fire. Sasuke manipulated the flames slowly, before releasing them and allowing the man his death. Nuu! His last scream would be heard, before his skin melted, his blood vessels evaporated, his muscles disintegrated and bones turned into fossil fuel, immediately used and dissipated. Sasuke looked over the last instances of these three people's existence. Not a single cell of their being left, most likely having even broken down the basic molecular structure into nothingness. Sasuke could check after all, his eyes allowing that level of sight. Down to the cellular level. Comment. 9 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 37, V.1C.37 Tune in Exam 7. Before anyone had even arrived at the tower, Team 11 of Konoha was not so surprisingly the first team to make it. I may have, again, manipulated things a bit to get Hinata and Sakura moving faster. Sasuke thought as they had arrived, using the 2 scrolls they gathered. One from that sound ninja group I erased. From the scrolls popped up their Jonin teacher, Kushina Uzumaki. She said something along the lines of congratulations and all the other stuff that is supposed to be explained upon completion. Kushina had some other things to talk about with Sasuke, privately. Leaving Hinata and Sakura to be confused as Sasuke was brought somewhere else to discuss things. Are you hurt? Kushina asked, her eyes roaming over Sasuke's body but didn't happen to even see a single scratch. It would seem you aren't. Anyway, I have been informed that you had a meeting with a certain individual. Yes. This person tried to bite me on multiple occasions. I believe a pervert had gotten into the exam. Sasuke stated calmly. I only managed to fight them off using the power of the 9 tails. You what? You know that you shouldn't so casually tap into the beast's power, otherwise Kushina was interrupted. I know. This person didn't manage to do anything to me, overwhelmed by the borrowed power. They also knew of me, so I assume that this person was targeting me. Sasuke replied. Yes. His name is Orochimaru. Kushina shared, divulging some things about this person and the reasoning of why he attacked Sasuke. I am just thankful that he didn't manage to tag you with his cursed seal. You want to check? Sasuke asked. Ha. Shut up. Stop being a brat, this is serious, you know. Kushina blushed a little due to Sasuke's words, but quickly got composed. No. If you say you are fine, then you are fine. What I am most worried about is... Kushina would go on to check some other things, specifically about how he feels, and eventually even had to give up and check Sasuke's abdomen for the 8 trigram seal itself. After being done, Kushina reminded Sasuke. I know that I don't have to tell you this, but I suggest you keep this information to yourself. Sasuke nodded his head, knowing not to worry anyone else, even his teammates, about this, as people behind the scenes were trying to figure out things and solve problems. It may be too late by then. Sasuke had interacted with the third Hokage before, but he had no other special relationship with the man, unlike others. Sasuke headed back to the restroom given to Team 11, finding that Sakura and Hinata had fallen asleep once again. The journey long, with Sasuke kind of pushing these two to be faster. Okay. Maybe we didn't need to arrive here so fast. But it was not entirely Sasuke's fault, as Sakura seemed to have this innate desire to triumph over everyone else. Especially Ino, just so she could show her up. How childish. Sasuke shook his head, before moving away and leaving these two to their sleep. Instead, Sasuke awaited the arrival of some more teams. It would be about half an hour later that the Hidden Sand Village's team would arrive very early as well. Coming in, Gaara, Tumrai and Kankuro noticed the presence of Sasuke, and with interest approached him. In particular, Gaara approached Sasuke, having set his eyes upon him. That gaze doesn't look all too nice. Sasuke eyed Gaara himself, seeing that the boy was troubled, but kept his troubles to himself. Greetings. Sasuke nodded, as Tumrai and Kankuro seemed to be hesitant to do anything in particular. Sasuke in particular could sense their fear towards their younger brother. A bit sad. The life of a Jinchuriki is really unkind. Whatever sympathy Sasuke had of this moment, however, was washed away by his resolve. You. Gaara didn't seem to have many words. You are interesting. Mother finds you interesting. Tell me your name. Sasuke Uchiha. My name is Gaara. After this small interaction, Gaara walks off, leaving Tumrai and Kankuro to heave a sigh of collective relief, for there was not anything too bad that came from this interaction. However, Gaara had now set his sights upon Sasuke, for a few reasons. Not only was Gaara interested in the genin that arrived here before himself, unharmed and without injury, like himself, it was Sasuke's eyes that interested him as well. Sasuke's eyes seemed to know death well. I will fight him soon enough. Sasuke watched the Sand team go, leaving him to further await the arrival of others or to go and get some rest himself. No one else should be arriving soon anyway. Sasuke turned around, his eyes having gotten a glimpse into what is within Gaara. His current power level, Sasuke's probability of being able to change him like Naruto could through talk no jutsu, and much more. Looking at his cells, I can identify genetic markers that code for chakra mutations, meaning that Gaara should have some level of genetic mutation related to a bloodline limit. However, I am unsure if this is just Gaara having recessive genetics to be passed down to his children to awaken magnet release, or if he has access to it himself. Sasuke memorized this for later. I shall mark him with the Chimera seal later. If he has the bloodline, then great. If he doesn't, not so great, but it wouldn't be too much of a waste of time. Before Sasuke had made the Chimera perfect, it would have taken more than just a few days to a few weeks, at most. To integrate, it would have taken a few months. Even just doing so to Kiba to gain in Yuzuka chakra mutations took long enough. Thankfully the Uzumaki one was not too slow, and so was the mark integration fast for Haku as well. Sasuke didn't know what the basis of time it took, but he assumed it had to do with information contained within. Things to do with purely chakra-related stuff, like chakra nature, was fast. Very fast, but things to do with alterations to the body took way longer, having to slightly alter things within, whether that be every individual cell to make things perfect. Probably why in Yuzuka and Uzumaki chakra mutations took so long. I am just glad that once I adopt Naruto's chakra it will be fast due to already having those Uzumaki genes and the only thing I need from him being Ashura's chakra. Sasuke looked at his two teammates, sound asleep from the rather stressful situation they had been placed in. Sasuke went to sleep himself, having to await the next 4 days for the others to finally get through the second test themselves. Within the center tower, Anko, along with the third Hokage, were within another room. How is it? Hiruzen asked. Does the curse mark still hurt? No. Thanks to you, it's gotten quite a bit better. Anko replied, seated as the two conversed with each other. I can bring in someone else to help with this matter. Hiruzen continued after this. Kushina Uzumaki is an expert with seals, certainly more so than this old man. Hiruzen said with mirth, before continuing. Of course there is one other, younger even, that has some unique perspective into seals. Maybe with his help we could glimpse some more into getting rid of the mark. Anko was curious, so she asked. And who would that be? Sasuke Uchiha. He has made some advancements in the field of financial technologies, including usage incorporating seals. You must know of this new banking system in place. It was thanks to his genius that the civilians have an easier time managing money. Hiruzen seemed to have some pride at the mention of this, and his words shocked Anko as well. The kid Orochimaru is after. Anko thought to herself, before shaking her head left and right, before she says. It is okay. Anyway, Orochimaru is one of those 3 legendary leaf ninjas, right? There were also 2 other Chunin proctors within the room with these 2 as well. He's a S-rank bingo book rouge shinobi who even the Angu couldn't touch, right? The other continued. I heard that he'd already died, but why'd he come to this village now? It's... Anko began only to be interrupted by Hiruzen. It's probably Sasuke. This surprised Anko, for he shouldn't have known this. Then a message passed on to Anko through the radio. Mistress Anko. 21 exam finishers have been confirmed. As for the 3rd exam, according to the regulations of the Chunin exams, preliminaries are planned for the first time in 5 years. The 2nd exam is over. The report was over. Hiruzen turned around from there and started. For the time being, continue the exams as is, but while keeping an eye on his movements. Anko replied. Yes. While internally she was thinking. Sasuke Uchiha. Orochimaru wants you for some reason, and since you haven't been marked yet, you are still the target, probably. First off, congratulations on finishing the 2nd exam. Anko's voice called as everyone was now gathered after the set amount of days had passed. Only 21 people having passed the exam out of the 78. Now we will have the explanation of the 3rd exam from Lord Hokage. Listen carefully, everyone. Anko turned towards the Hokage. Now then, if you will, Lord Hokage. All right. Hiruzen replied, before starting. Before the explanation of the 3rd exam that will start from now, I have just one thing that I want to tell everyone flat out. About the true purpose of these exams. Why do allied nations conduct the exams on a conjoint basis? Raising the levels of the shinobi and friendship among allied nations. It won't do to have the wrong idea of the true meaning of that statement. These exams are, so to speak, a microcosm of battle between allied nations. What do you mean? Tenten from the crowd asked. Overwhelmingly, the teams were heavily balanced in Konoha's favor, with 18 out of the 21 people here being from Konoha. If we look back on history, the allied nations of today were once neighboring nations that continued to vie with each other and battle for power. In order to avoid a futile crushing of each other's military strength, those nations mutually selected a place to battle. And that is how the Chunin exams originally began. Why do we have to do such a thing? We are not doing this to select Chunins. Naruto called out, asking this question. There is no doubt that these exams are to select shinobi worthy of becoming Chunin. But on the other hand, these exams also provide a venue for shinobi who carry their nation's pride on their backs to fight for their lives. Many feudal lords and those of prominence from many nations who request shinobi for work are invited to this 3rd exam as guests. And the feudal lords and head ninja of each village of the nations will watch your battles. If the gap in national power becomes unbridgeable, the strong nations are inundated with job requests. The requests of nations deemed weak, on the other hand, decline. Of course this is purely based on stuff for ninja. I think the Hokage here is being a bit dramatic in saying that the entire nation would collapse because ninja don't get enough work. Sasuke thought as he was listening to the speech. And therewithal, we can exert pressure upon each neighboring nation. That is to say, just how much military strength our village is developing and has. This line of thinking is strange. I could make up an entirely new village somewhere, and disguise myself as different people, before proceeding to display power that my village doesn't actually have except myself. This system is a bit screwed in this manner. Sasuke already thought of a way to exploit this system, which others no doubt have been doing as well. Even so, why is it necessary for us to fight for our lives? Kiba spoke up, making a good point. The nation's strength is the village's strength. The village's strength is the nation's strength. And the true strength of the shinobi is created only in a fight for one's life. This exam is a place to see the strength of the home country shinobi, and a place to display this as well. It's because this is an exam where you truly fight for your life that this has meaning. It's for this very reason that your forerunners fought in this exam, a dream worth striving for. Then why use the expression of friendship? Tenten smartly asks, voicing herself. I said it at the start, didn't I? That it won't do for you to have the wrong idea of the meaning. It's a custom where the balance is preserved by fighting and removing life. This is the friendship of the shinobi world. Hiruzen said, and Sasuke couldn't help but take this in a much more grim way. This is a fight for life with the pride of the village and one's own dream on the line. Hiruzen finished. Anything is fine. Just tell us the content of that fight for life test. Gaara said in an annoyed tone. Very well. Now then, this is where I explain the third exam. But actually Hiruzen started, but another person came and bowed down in front of him. Lord Hokage, please allow me, hired Gecko, who was given the task of judge, to speak first. I leave it to you. Everyone, it is nice to meet you. The guy starts to cough a bit, before continuing. There is something I'd like you all to do, before the third exam. He coughed all throughout. Time for some sudden death. Comment. 8 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 38, V.1C.38 Tune in Exam 8. A preliminary sudden death matchup was about to take place. As the judge for the exam started to explain things, Sasuke both zoned in and out from this conversation. Already knowing what this was about. Thankfully my memory from even before I had access to the Sharingan was god tier. Sasuke thought to himself, thanking himself, and no one else for his ability to remember things. Truly, it helped him a lot in his previous life with busted education systems that are based off of how well you remember things. He's filled with random thoughts, bit and pieces of knowledge aside. Sasuke was even able to remember stuff from his past life, including filler episodes and other such things. Truly. A curse. Or is it a blessing? That aside, Sasuke only zoned back in once after Kabuto had decided to leave from the battle, leaving only 20 individuals left to battle it out. Well, I guess that remains the same. And here I thought there would be some differences since I have taken out the people from the Sound Village. I guess Kabuto still has his reasons to leave. Sasuke thought, before zoning out once again. Finally, the electric board came on screen to display who will be fighting who. That was too long. Sasuke complained inwardly, but this is his own fault due to the Sharingan always being active, slowly down his perception of time, but also because of this, inherently his body and mind have adapted to also experiencing the world as such. Looking towards the board, the two names displayed happened to be between Akio Uchiha first against Yoroi Ekadu. A ninja from the hidden lead, but was in fact a spy belonging to Orochimaru, someone that was a part of the team Kabuto was within. Someone that has the ability to absorb chakra. How I wish I was born with this ability as well. It would make things easier when it comes to subduing people. The body shuts down after a certain point if too much chakra is taken, and after that, one cannot absorb any more chakra past that point. Begin. The proctor called, as Yoroi and Akio were opposite of each other. Everyone else had been relegated to the stands to watch the battle between these two people. Between these two, Akio had yet to awaken the Sharingan, and even then, there is not much chance of someone being able to awaken even if they are from the Uchiha. I guess the reasoning behind awakening the Sharingan is based off of whether the body, mind and one's eyes are able to handle it. And that is not even taking into account the emotions required for the process. Sasuke had done sufficient analysis of how he could awaken and strengthen the Sharingan himself, going through all methods one could be able to do so. Akio should have the sufficient physical and mental strength to awaken it now. Or at least that is what Sasuke thought, given Akio had supposedly not felt an emotion strong enough to finally awaken it. Neither did the other surviving female Uchiha that decided to become a ninja, Miko. They have motivation, but haven't had the experiences. Sasuke nodded his head as he watched the boy that was Sasuke's replacement on Team 7. Between Yoroi and Akio, the fight didn't last too long. Of course, Akio lost, given he was fighting against an opponent above his level, where Akio also didn't have any abilities to overcome said person in any other way. Next was another small change, leading to Sakura Hirano vs Shino Aburam. Interesting. Sakura should have fought off against Ino. Sasuke finally put his mind onto this battle, to fully show his support of Sakura in this match. Shino vs Sakura was a match to be watched closely, as while Shino himself was quite good or skilled as a ninja, his currently level of training and experience could not compare to Sakura, whom had to face off against Sasuke in training. Not only that, she also constantly had to improve herself, not only for herself but because of Sasuke's standards as well. This match would have been much closer if it was like the original, where Sakura faced off against Ino, where the two are very likely to draw. Sakura Hirano wins. Shino dropped to the ground, on his back as he was exhausted straight away by Sakura's persistence and tenacity in the face of his techniques based around his clan's secret arts. It should be fine anyway. Shino wouldn't be becoming a Chunin this time in the original as well. Sasuke thought as the next people to fight came up. Tsurudai Misumi vs Kankuro. Kankuro wins. Chinami Okamoto vs Ino Yamanaka. Ino wins. Sakura and Ino had some words with each other, particularly in relation to Sasuke, given that their rivalry is still a thing. Friendly rivalry? I don't know. The mind of women is strange, even more so for teenage girls. Sasuke thought as he glanced down towards Naruto's second down teammate. There goes the second teammate of Team 7, leaving only Naruto left. Next up was Tenten vs Temurai. Temurai wins, overwhelmingly due to a disparity of skill and strength. Well, not like this wasn't how it wasn't going to go originally. Next came Shikamaru Nara vs Hinata Hyuga. The end result is like one would imagine. Well, it was certainly a surprise for Shikamaru and everyone else, as Hinata in particular was unorthodox in her approach to this situation, immediately going on the aggressive side of things, ending things before they could even begin. Sorry, Shikamaru, but I didn't want to fight too long against you. I am aware of your intelligence and clan's techniques, and prolonging the battle would make it harder for myself. Of course Hinata had to say something after that amazing display of skill. Shikamaru was flabbergasted, before saying, "Troublesome. I admit defeat." Next up was the fight between Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka, which obviously leads to Naruto's win. After all, that guy is somehow still benefiting off of his protagonist aura, despite having lost what would kind of make him the protagonist a few months ago. Well, he still does have talk no jutsu, so I guess he still has that going for him. And where did he have the time to learn the shadow clone technique? Well, whatever. Next up is Miko Uchiha vs Neji Hyuga. It wasn't even a battle between the two dojutsu users, as Miko didn't have the Sharingan. Neji won overall, leading to Miko being downed and taken away. Lee vs Gaara went the same way as it happened originally. Well, I don't mind helping him out by healing him up. Sasuke conjured a shadow clone as the battle finished to follow Lee and the medical crew out. Of course, only as repayment for allowing me to see more and more of the technique used to open the inner 8 gates. Looking at Lee's condition using his eyes, Sasuke was able to determine that he may be able to at least subvert the damage done and allow the poor boy the ability to become a ninja again. Well, it will take a long while still to recover. I better have the clone do it secretly as well. While my medical ninjutsu is probably not on par with Tsunad's techniques, it is more than enough to help Lee, only thanks to the Kyuubi's chakra and the Sharingan. Finally it was Sasuke vs Choji. Quickly enough, without a shadow of doubt, Sasuke defeated Choji easily. His clan's secret techniques was interesting enough, at least. Sasuke thought as he recorded everything he viewed. Sasuke went easy on the lad, even surprising a few people by his strange use of genjutsu. Learning the sound techniques from those sound ninja, I just created a genjutsu related to it to knock him out. Simple enough. With this, the final rounds of the preliminaries is over. The proctor finished, leaving everyone to start going on their way. To everyone who has advanced to the final round of the third test of the Chunin exams, congratulations. After explanations once again is over and done with about the final round, The final participants are asked to use the box that Anko is using to be randomly selected to fight against certain opponents. If I really wanted to manipulate things. Sasuke was thinking about the choices he can make and manipulate the choices of others to perfectly align everything the way he wants it. Those within this very room, none the wiser. Of course, that is only if the Hokage isn't present. I can only manipulate what number I will get, not others. If it is like this. Everyone started to take their turns taking numbers, leading to everyone having a person they will fight against. Okay. I will do this. Sasuke proceeded to be a bit risky in his operation, but grabbed a hold of the number 10, while manipulating the deck in favor of one person gaining the number 9. It was decided. Naruto vs Neji first. Sakura vs Ino second. Shino vs Kankuro third. Tamrai vs Hinata. Where the final match will be between Gaara and Sasuke. Maybe I should set myself up for a meeting with Jiraiya. Sasuke thought to himself as the now small break that would take place before the main event was happening. Kushina had come and picked up Sakura and Hinata to do some more training. Kushina would have to find them the right teacher or teachers if she herself couldn't give them each an extra one-up in the tournament to come. Sasuke on the other hand was left to do his own thing. Reason being that Kushina couldn't help him with anything that would help him or be beneficial in the tournament. Not in sealing techniques, as that wouldn't help him in the tournament, not ninjutsu, as he already has a whole list of techniques available to him due to the Sharingan. Not genjutsu, again because of the Sharingan, or even the basics like chakra control. Really, the only real reason Kushina is even my teacher is again, probably because of my status as a Jinchuriki. Sasuke stopped at a bathing house. Let's use this opportunity to sign myself up as a toad summoner. Although unneeded, Jiraiya is Sasuke's path to unlocking, learning and gaining the ability to use sage arts. Soon enough, Sasuke has come across the pervert doing perverted things. Eyebrow twitching, Sasuke moves forwards. Excuse me. What are you doing over there peeking at those girls? Sasuke added loudly, making sure to stop the pervert so that he may acquire his full attention. No. Shh. Be quiet. Jiraiya was a tall and well-built man in adulthood with fair skin. He had waist-length, spiky white hair that he usually ties back into a ponytail, with 2 shoulder-length bangs framing his face. There were red lines under his eyes which extended further down his face as he got older, going all the way to the bottom by the time he was an adult. He had wrinkles around the corners of his mouth and a wart on the left side of his nose. His usual attire consisted of a green short shirt kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that is visible at his wrists and ankles. He also wore handguards, a black belt, traditional Japanese wooden sandals, and a red haori with 2 yellow circles on each side. He often carried a large scroll on his back, and had a tattoo on his left palm, and he wore a horned forehead protector with the kanji foil, which denoted his affiliation with Mount Myoboku. Be quiet. Why do you insist? Sasuke called out again, further alerting those females as they up and left, leaving Jiraiya to fume a bit. Kid. You just interrupted my research. I am a writer of a novel. A famous novel. Jiraiya said. I am well aware of who you are. Sasuke nodded his head. You know. Am I that famous now? Jiraiya spoke the last part to himself, before continuing. Thanks kid for interrupting me. Wait, you do look kind of familiar. Jiraiya now just noticed that Sasuke had the Sharingan. Sharingan. This must be Sasuke Uchiha. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Why don't you help me train, and in exchange I will not follow you around and tell everyone you are a pervert. Sasuke said, going straight for the jugular. You wouldn't dare. Jiraiya tried to call Sasuke's bluff, but he wasn't bluffing. I am not. I will fulfill what I have just said, easily. Aunt Kushina is busy training the other 2, and I would like to learn something from the almighty Toad Sage. So, I have decided to use what I currently have in my power, which is blackmail, to have you help me out. Sasuke replied. You are smart. I'll give you that. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes before saying. I can help you out, but in exchange you must do something for me. Comment. 9 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 39, V.1c.39 Tune in Exam 9. Somewhere along the way Jiraiya had taken Sasuke to go and check up on Naruto, and Jiraiya had concluded that Naruto was no longer a Jinchuriki, despite still having the seal. On the other hand, Jiraiya did confirm that there was nothing wrong with the seal on Sasuke. Sasuke had taken away any small modifications he made to his own 8 trigram seal and Naruto's after he had taken the other half of the Kyuubi. So, Naruto didn't get to train with Jiraiya, nor was he separated from his own team as Kakashi wasn't forced to only train Sasuke or look after him like in the original. In fact, Naruto was the only member of Team 7 to move on to the finals, leaving Kakashi to be the only person to train him. Sasuke went back to training with Jiraiya, and even managed to get a hold of the summoner's contract that allowed Sasuke access to the toad summons. The sun was shining, the people were pouring in and a whole festival was happening as the final rounds of the Chunin exam is going underway. Standing among everyone else present, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Hirano, Hinata Hyuga, Tonrai, Gaara, Kankuro, Naruto Uzumaki, Neji Hyuga, Shino Aburam, and Ino Yamanaka were all gathered at the center stage. The place they were within an open field, as a crowd of people looked down at them in preparation for the entertainment the people could derive from this event. There are many reasons as to why this is done like this, and one such reason is probably money. The wealth brought in by events like this is no small thing, with people surely wanting to gain seating for such an exclusive entertainment. Like sports, but not like sports, as this was more important than that, with this event having politic impacts on the world at large as well. You guys are the stars for this final round, the proctor said as the crowd up in the stands cheered. This is certainly a similar feel to those big stadium sports events of my previous world. Sasuke thought, his eyes taking in everything, slowly and methodically. Everyone, thank you very much for coming to the village hidden in the leaves Chunin exam. Hiruzen's voice was transmitted throughout for everyone to hear. We will now begin the final round matches for the 8 who made it through the preliminaries. Please watch until the end. The crowd began cheering again, after Hiruzen, the current Hokage, had finished. The current proctor judge started to explain the rules, before saying. So the first match is Naruto Uzumaki, Neji Hyuga. Just those 2 remain and the rest of you go to the waiting room. The fight between Naruto and Neji went similarly enough to the original. Neji still has this whole destiny thing he talks about. After a hard fight, and despite his best efforts, it was only due to Naruto having access to the Kyuubi's chakra that he was able to beat Neji at all. However, it would seem that Naruto still managed to win. Of course Sasuke could see and others could tell it was due to the chakra of the Kyuubi. Despite having taken the Kyuubi's other half, I guess there was a chance some of the Kyuubi's chakra was still stuck in the seal. The next match was Sakura vs Ino, a match that would actually end in a draw, for Sakura and Ino have pretty much been growing at the same pace. Their skill sets put up against each other made it hard for the 2 of them to actually get one up on the other. Even after having secluded themselves for an entire month so as not to give away their new techniques. In the end, Sakura and Ino drew much in the same manner as it would have in the original preliminary matchups. Next was Kankuro vs Shino Aburam, and this match went the same as the original. Specifically with Kankuro abstaining from the match. The next matchup is Tonrai vs Hinata Hyuga. This matchup being different leads to Sasuke taking more interest in the fight. But going by level of skills and abilities, Hinata has the possibility of drawing, with a slim chance of winning. It was not that Sasuke didn't believe that Hinata would be unable to win, but going off of what he knows about her and her abilities, she is not a good matchup against someone like Tonrai. Especially since Tonrai, being older and more experienced, has the upper hand. And Tonrai would not be stupid enough to do the same thing as what Naruto did when confronting Neji. It began, where Hinata and Tonrai clashed. The result at the end happened to be a very close draw between Tonrai and Hinata, with Tonrai managing just to win. Tonrai was skilled in wind-style techniques, allowing her to keep her distance from Hinata. Hinata was much more of a close-distance fighter, which in the end led to Tonrai having the final advantage, ending in her win. Hinata was congratulated for getting this far by the 2 fangirls Sakura and Ino as they had awoken from their slumber just in time to see the end of Hinata's match. So it must be my turn soon enough. Sasuke looked over towards Gaara and the crowd as this was the moment everyone had been anticipating. I guess people are very excited to see the battle between the 2 of us. I certainly have more fame than the original Sasuke, so I guess this also explains why there happens to be many signs being held up around the seated spectators. Fangirls were still a thing that plagued Sasuke, even with his own efforts to subvert such a thing from developing. Many voices seemed to think nothing of Gaara and instead seemed to put all their attention on Sasuke and his capabilities. Or at least what is known of his abilities anyway, as everyone seemed to think Sasuke would win flat out. The amount of time that had elapsed since the beginning of the matches was in fact the same amount of time passed as it would have been in the original. Is there some kind of greater will watching over all of this? I guess I also have myself to blame as well, given that things still align themselves to be perfectly in place with the original line of events. Sasuke saving the Uchiha, but in the end only managed to forestall the subsequent near disbandment as most of the survivors then left the village. There is only one thing that I have changed, and that is the death of Neji's father, which in the end doesn't even affect much at all. Lee happened to come at this time as well. His body healed much quicker due to a little something that Sasuke was able to help him with. Sasuke glanced towards where Lee was and looked inwards, using his Sharingan, and managed to identify that it was true that if he had done nothing, Lee most likely would not have been able to become a ninja again. I can't be letting such a hard-working guy just have his life destroyed by some maniac kid. Sasuke nodded his head, feeling slightly happy at what he managed to do, for Lee was one of his more favored characters from the original Naruto story. Sasuke was now down in the field, the judge there as well, the two waiting for Gaara to make his entrance. Gaara came down, now face to face with his opponent, Sasuke. So now, at last, the proctor judge said. The crowd was now silent in anticipation for what is to come next, as if their breath was taken away and replaced with silence and the proctor judge's voice speaking to these two. Both of you, to the middle. Sasuke and Gaara steps forward. Begin. Sand started pouring from Gaara's the gourd on his back, leaving Sasuke to leap backwards, so that he isn't immediately caught in a death trap. While I should be powerful enough, Gaara is an unstable element in all of this, so I will take it carefully. Gaara started to talk to himself. Please don't get so mad. Holding his face, the sand from the gourd hovered above him. Mother. Earlier I had you suck awful tasting blood. I'm sorry. But this time it'll likely taste good. The look in Gaara's eyes most certainly did not seem friendly, even to the spectators watching. As if getting back under some measure of control, Gaara seemed as if he felt a small sense of pain, his sand falling onto the ground. Come on. Gaara lifted his head up, prompting Sasuke to start. Sasuke threw some shuriken straight towards Gaara, as his sand defense became a clone of sorts that blocked the attack. After this, Gaara's sand clone shot out a barrage of sand, targeting Sasuke, where he dodged this and got in close. Sasuke got in close enough, proceeding to use his taijutsu skills to overwhelm the clone, destroying it and proceeding to imitate what happened originally. Sasuke perfectly controlled his body and was easily able to copy Lee's taijutsu style. Well, if the original worked, why not go with this? It gave Sasuke the opportunity to try and mark the actual body of Gaara. The sand protection layering was getting in his way of being able to plant a chimera seal so that he may start siphoning the chakra needed to gain Gaara's bloodline limit of magnet release. I will also try and put on a Hirashin seal as well. Who knows, once I become more powerful and skilled in the use of medical ninjutsu, I am sure that I could extract the Ichibi. Sasuke continued his imitation, going even faster than what Lee was able to pull off. Obviously, Sasuke had been training his body for years now and the gains were showing their true worth. Gaara was surprised, for this reminded him of the way Lee fought against him, where he started to lose his protection. The same happened, in that Sasuke was able to create many cracks in the defense of Gaara's defensive abilities. As the Ichibi's Jinchuriki, Gaara is able to manipulate sand. He carries a supply of sand wherever he goes in a gourd, which itself is made from sand. This personal sand is infused with his own chakra, allowing him to deploy it faster and manipulate it more precisely. If he needs more sand, he can either use sand from the surroundings or, if there isn't any, use his personal sand to break down minerals in the ground to create some. These secondary sand supplies require more chakra to control. Gifted with powerful defensive ninjutsu, Gaara's usual tactic is to remain stationary in battle, using his sand to attack opponents from afar. The attacks typically follow the same formula, capture and immobilize the target, such as with the sand binding coffin, and then crush all parts of their body, such as with the sand waterfall funeral, which all become useless in the face of Sasuke bearing down on his defensive fighting style. Finally, Gaara resorted to placing himself within a barrier of sand, hardened, where spikes may protrude, where if Sasuke gets close, they may be able to hit him. Sasuke decided to test his body's durability by striking the sand, and the results were surprising. Sasuke's current physical strength still cannot go through that level of defense, however, it is at least powerful enough to cause actual damage. Alright. I guess I can use this technique then. Sasuke had his fair share in collecting hundreds of ninjutsu. In fact, I should now have access to actual hundreds by pure virtue of the Sharingan. Multiple missions has led Sasuke to copying many techniques from enemies. Of course, even techniques from allies as well, not that he would be able to just up and learn everything. Most techniques were of a lower level. But that doesn't mean I can't access the few high-level ones. Sasuke stepped back a little, before bringing his hands together in front of his face. Fire release, great fireball technique. Sasuke called in his mind, before he blew a large amount of fire in the form of a ball, straight towards the dome Gaara was within. The heat of the fire was strong enough to start making the dense sand malleable enough for Sasuke to go through it. Right. I just needed some small weakness in your defense to strike. Sasuke speed up, gathering momentum and covered his palm with chakra. Just so that I don't hurt myself, of course. Sasuke's hand went through the heated sand with much more ease, as the chakra from the fire messed with Gaara's chakra, leading to Sasuke striking past this defense. Striking past Gaara's bodily defenses as well. Mark, transmitter chimera seal. Sasuke thought as a small seal appeared on Gaara before disappearing, as Sasuke's own receiver chimera seal also showed up for a bit before receding. Sasuke's other hand went up, and through the defense, striking another area of Gaara's actual body. Mark, Hirashin seal. Sasuke took his arms out and proceeded to back off, knowing that he had probably minorly injured Gaara. This should be it. Comment. 6 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 40, V.1C.40 Konoha Crush. From Gaara's sand barrier, his voice was excited and somewhat crazed, before a strange arm hand burst through and tried to grapple onto Sasuke. Slamming into the ground, the strange arm hand that extended outwards started to recede inwards. A growl of sorts is heard, echoing just a bit as Sasuke regards the sand barrier. Here it is then. A massive amount of crazed killing intent bore down on Sasuke, reminding him of that night 12 years ago. Within a small dark hole into where Gaara would be, an eye appeared briefly, caught by Sasuke's Sharingan. Breaking apart, the sand dome revealed Gaara still standing and kind of limped over, the sand scattering all over the ground. I may have hit too hard. Sasuke saw Gaara had 2 marks where his fists had hit. Gaara's skin had been teared off, leaving some small amounts of blood to leak from the 2 wounds. That is when feathers started to fall to the ground. I guess that means my small amount of fun here is done. Sasuke eyed the sky, specifically towards the stands as the civilians present started to be put under. Sasuke also made sure that Gaara also didn't all of a sudden take him by surprise as he analyzed the situation. An explosion of smoke went off up where the 3rd Hokage was. As everything was taking place around, Tumrai and Kankuro had decided to step in and stop Gaara from going on a rampage. Stop it, Gaara. Tumrai shouted at her little brother. I'll kill him. Gaara responded, keeping his eyes focused on Sasuke. There's no meaning in continuing this fight. Kankuro tried stopping his little brother as well. Don't forget our mission. Tumrai continued. Pushing Kankuro aside, Gaara steps forward. Out of my way. That was when the Sand Team's leader came down, interrupting them. What are you guys doing? The operation is already underway. Their Jonin instructor said, but Gaara seemed to be affected more and more by whatever it was that was affecting him. Gaara falls to his knees, holding his head, where Tumrai and Kankuro were worried over this situation. The leader said some words, ordering them to take Gaara away, and they did, leaving Sasuke along with the proctor judge in front of himself against said sand leader. The proctor gave Sasuke some time to chase after those 3 sand ninja. Well, this should be interesting. Before he fully left, he made some shadow clones to keep a close eye on some select people. After all, he may have some people he has grown attached to. While chasing after Gaara, Sasuke noticed a resonance coming from his chimera seal upon his chest. What is this? He didn't come to a stop, but rather took his time in analyzing this new situation and what is happening. It has finished the chakra absorption and Gaara's chakra has been subsumed already. Flashing a bit, the seal also conveyed to Sasuke that the mark set upon Gaara had disappeared. Thankfully I don't need that anymore. I am guessing that whatever happened is due to the presence of the Ichibi starting to be aroused. For Sasuke, he was even able to sense that the Hirashin seal had been taken off as well. No matter. I don't need the chimera seal active once I have received the transceiver's chakra. Coming to a short stop, Sasuke awaits the small amount of opponents coming his way. I see. Naruto would have been the original person to help take care of this small problem, alongside Shikamaru and Sakura, but here, Sasuke is by himself. Unfortunately, I don't have much time to play around right now. Sasuke turned to face them all, their eyes all turned away from himself in fear of the Sharingan's genjutsu capabilities. Amaterasu. Black flames spawned around Sasuke, and manipulating Sasuke created a cloak of black fire surrounding himself. Sasuke expands Amaterasu and forms a fiery current that forms a hurricane, which immediately scopes up all the following enemy ninja, before reducing them all to nothing. Clutching his chest, Sasuke falls to his knee for a bit. Damn it. Even though Sasuke needn't have to worry anymore about the chimera seal, the effects were still taking place, slowly transforming his body. This may be a problem. I never expected it to go this fast, but now that it has, and by nature Gaara's chakra mutation is mostly chakra-based. When it came to bloodline limits that were chakra nature-based, they were absorbed and adopted quickly, just like with Haku, but not this fast. However, the main problem was Sasuke was now starting to go through the process of bodily transformation at an accelerated pace due to whatever made the chimera seal excel in speed. I will have to deal with the pain. Every second, and even shorter amounts of time was being recorded as his Sharingan remained active. Every cell in his body was on fire, going through a purge, but by now he had gone through this a few times already. The pain not lessened, but his tolerance increased enough to deal with it and deal with the Ichibi problem. Feeling some pain, Sasuke just manages to catch onto the explosive seals planted on some trees to slow him down. Dodging out of the way, Sasuke doesn't stop and keeps his current pace, not wanting to overclock his body. With the speed of the current transformation, and the importance of what he wants to get a hold, Sasuke needed to do it faster. However, straining my body right now is not the best idea. Dashing across the trees, Sasuke didn't stop and kept going. Elsewhere, many ninja were fighting each other, going for the kill more often than not. All of the Jonin teachers for the teams, the Konoha proctors and judges, all facing off against this enemy attack against Konohagakure. There happened to be 3 people that managed to overcome the genjutsu that was used. Ino. Watch out. Sakura called as her friend was nearly stabbed by an enemy ninja. Ino turned around and used a kunai to pierce this nameless being, before replying. You worry about yourself, Sakura. Hinata had her Bakugan active, her eyes watching everything that is happening. Sasuke has gone after those sand ninja. Lord Hokage is under attack, and everyone seems to be fighting each other. We are under attack. Hinata said as she disabled an opponent's tenketsu, making them useless. What do we do? Ino posed the question. It wouldn't do too well to wake everyone else up. I was about to suggest waking the others up, but... Sakura said as she was unsure about what she should do in this situation. Appearing before them, Kushina surprised the 3 of them. Well. Looks like there are some genin that are able to get out of that genjutsu. Lady Kushina. Hinata greeted. Never mind that. Sasuke has gone after that sand brat, and the Hokage is currently under attack. The 3 of you will help move the civilians away into a safer area. Kushina used a kunai to bat away some thrown concealed weaponry that tried to hit her. That is your mission. The civilians could die due to accidents or from the recklessness of the ninja here. Okay. Sakura and Ino replied, nodding their heads as Hinata also replied with a nod of her head as well. Go. Kushina dashed off on her own, facing off against the many ninja present that were currently at or above the abilities of the 3 genin. Also, you may want to wake up some others to deal with this problem. Sakura, Ino and Hinata did just that, waking up the rest of the Rookie 12, getting them to help out with their given mission in saving the civilians. Be careful, Sasuke. The three girls, Ino, Hinata and Sakura, thought to themselves in a variety of ways. Stopping on a tree ahead of the three sand ninja up front, Sasuke eyes his current opponents. To be, or not to be? Sasuke pondered how much usefulness these three people ahead of him for his benefit. Unlike others he has actually spent time with, he had no special connection to these three, other than Gaara being a Jinchuriki. And if I kill him, I will be able to take the Ichibi for myself. Being one step closer to what I wish to accomplish. The 8 trigram seal was a place of infinite space, allowing Sasuke to put as many tailed beasts within as he would like. He even had Shio in there, of course, as a place that would allow her to be within and be with him, safe at all times. Sasuke's ears twitched a bit as he manages to hear their conversation. Dang it. Kankuro was holding on to Gaara. Sasuke Uchiha. Tumrai said, her eyes gazing upon Sasuke's form. Smiling, his red, Sharingan eyes regarded them, as Sasuke says. I don't think I can let you three get away. Heh. That's fine. Kankuro replied, whilst Tumrai jumped into the air, probably intending to defend Kankuro and Gaara as much as she could. Kankuro. Take Gaara and go quickly. Tumrai called out, before she proceeded to throw out some kunai, engaging Sasuke in a battle. Sasuke dodges the 3 kunai as they land on the tree behind him. Leave him to me. But, Tumrai. No matter how you look at it, you can't beat him alone. Kankuro said. The look in his eyes is different from Gaara's. But why does it feel so much worse? Leave me be. This is an important mission for the village hidden in the sand. Make Gaara the first priority. Tumrai replied, before looking Sasuke up and down. Besides, he's quite my type of a guy. Go, Kankuro. Kankuro dashed off, along with Gaara, leaving Sasuke to deal with the pretty lady that said that he is supposedly her type. I am flattered. Sasuke's eyes sent signals to Tumrai's brain that suggested she should be wary. This is different. Tumrai thought to herself. Eat this. She called out as she unleashed a gale of wind in Sasuke's direction, trying to stop him or slow him down. I don't have much chakra left. Your little brother is interesting. Or at least the thing inside him interests me than he does himself. Sasuke said, before he disappeared before her very eyes. What? Looking around, Tumrai failed to find him, until she felt herself being lifted off of her feet. What? How? The scene was of Sasuke lifting Tumrai off of the ground in a princess carry. What is with that look on your face? I thought you said you were interested in me. Sasuke asked her with a smirk that irked Tumrai, but she didn't forget that this is her current enemy. When she lifted up her hand, enclosed as a fist, and tried to hit his face, but she was unable to do anything. Her eyes were getting tired, and as she tried her hardest to stay awake, she was only able to see the beauty of Sasuke's eyes before falling asleep. Damn it. Am I so powerless? Sleep now. Don't worry, I won't hurt your brothers too much. Sasuke said, as she fell unconscious. I may not be able to see Tenketsu, but that doesn't mean I am unable to affect it. Sasuke had made her go unconscious via an application of the Hyuga clan's gentle fist and a little bit of a genjutsu through the Sharingan. Attaching Tumrai onto his back, Sasuke was easily able to take a hold of her using chakra to stick her body onto his without using his own limbs. Catching up, Sasuke stops in front of Kankuro and Gaara, as Tumrai was attached to his back. I thought she would hinder my movement some more, but I guess it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Hey. Tumrai manages to wake up and get off Sasuke's back. I see you didn't sleep long. Sasuke sensed Shino nearby. Kankuro decided to stay behind instead this time, but Shino stepped up out of nowhere wanting to face off against his opponent that backed out. Tumrai, tired and nearing chakra exhaustion, took Gaara and speed off, with Sasuke chasing after. Put me down, Tumrai. Gaara said, having awoken. Can you move, Gaara? Tumrai asked as they came to a stop, Sasuke just behind them. Tumrai, go over there. Gaara said. What? Just beat it. You're in my way. Gaara punched her away as he got up himself, leaving Tamrai too tired to do anything. Sasuke didn't say anything as Gaara was struggling with himself, clutching his head and all that. Stop, Gaara. Have you forgotten the operation? You who are strong. You who are called Uchiha. You who have friends. You who have purpose. You who are like me. By killing you, I will exist in this world as the one who destroyed all of that. I can truly experience life. You're my. Gaara was starting to break down more and more. You're my prey. Gaara started to transform into something else, as the sand started to meld into his very being. His flesh and body taking on the form of something else. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Now. Let me feel it. Gaara launched himself in this form towards Sasuke, while Tamrai cowered beneath.